I do feel like the reception was informed by a cocktail of sexism and homophobia.
What a great word, a cocktail.
It's the kind of cocktail, when you drink it, you immediately start crying instead of dancing.
Well, I just wouldn't order it in the first place.
Me neither. I say, take that back to the kitchen.
Hi, I'm Joe.
And I'm Allison.
And this is Queer Cinema Catchup.
The podcast where we catch up with movies, TV, and miscellaneous items through a queer lens and catch up with one another. And we do that because...
we love movies.
And because...
we're both queer people.
And...
that grew up with each other until one day Allison sadly moved away.
Good job.
But we were reunited years later and became roommates in LA. And here we are, catching up with each other and our queer movie-loving lives.
Okay, I'm glad. That was good.
Queer movie-loving lives. I always say that, but you're like, you usually laugh and say that it's not correct.
Well, it sounds right to me right now, so I don't know what I was laughing about.
Must be the camera.
I know, I do feel very like, hi.
We're doing video. We're going to see how this goes. We're doing a little test run before the next movie that we're very excited to do on camera.
Oh my gosh.
But we'll wait to let you know.
Why? We should promote it.
Okay, go for it.
M. Night Shyamalan's Trap.
But we're not here to talk about Trap.
No.
Today we will be talking about the movie Connie and Carla.
Which I had never heard of. We were going over to our friends who are huge movie lovers, and we kind of decided to watch Connie and Carla, and I was sort of like, what is that? But then Joe said 2 words. Toni Collette. And I was in. It was very fun.
Now we're catching all your micro expressions. So you were like, it was very fun, but you scratched your face.
What would you say, Therapist Joe? What does that mean?
Well, I felt it was disingenuous because you had a blast. You had a lot of fun. You loved it. You were laughing the whole time.
I was.
Now that I'm talking with you, it doesn't seem like you're that interested.
I think the micro expression comes from the fact that we started doing our blueprints. And I don't know what's on my blueprint because I wrote it a little while ago. And so my laptop's over there closed. And I'm like, wait, I can't say anything yet because I don't know what I say in the blueprint.
Well, the movie stars Toni Collette and who's the woman from My Big Fat Greek Wedding?
I have my blueprint open.
Let's get into, I think, the 2004 or 5 or 6 year movie Connie and Carla.
It stars Toni Collette and Nia Vardalos of My Big Fat Greek Wedding fame. And it was directed by Michael Lembeck, distributed by Universal Pictures. It came out in 2004, as I believe Joe said.
My instinct, I should have just gone to it.
Joe has an uncanny ability to guess the dates.
Around the year that the movie came out.
I'd say you're pretty good at it, though. It's kind of like a party trick. Actually, one time at a party, we did do it as a trick.
Shall I read a quick synopsis?
Yes.
Connie and Carla is a 2004 American comedy directed by, well, you already said that. The film was shot, okay. You already said all of it.
Here you go. I got one for you. It's from Wikipedia. Best pals Connie and Carla have a song and dance act at a Chicago airport, but they go on the run after witnessing a murder. In Los Angeles, they glimpse the city's drag queen scene, and believing that stage success is just a wardrobe change away, they become female impersonators. They fall into a circle populated by Connie's boo, Jeff, and bar owner Stanley. But the killers want to make sure the women never tell what they know. I find that very odd that the synopsis decides to privilege the 2 straight people. Like, not Connie and Carla, but I mean, Jeff and Stanley. Was the bar owner straight? I don't remember.
I think so.
It's kind of weird to call them out by name. What about all the drag queens? Whatever. Wikipedia, do better.
I do think that this was really bold of them to release this in 2004.
Is that how I'm drinking my water?
The performance of you, though, drinking the water and trying to maintain eye contact with me, which is then making you drink the water even slower. I'm trying to fight my way through this.
I'm worried that we should go with the blueprint.
Well, I do want to say,
yes,
we talked about after the movie came out how impressive it was for the YouTube thing. You're going to do it again?
I didn't know I was still thirsty.
All right.
So what were you saying? Sorry.
You're holding that water glass. I'm nervous.
Put it down.
2004, I think we both commented on the fact how impressive it was for a movie like this to come out.
Yes.
Featuring, the West Hollywood gay scene.
Absolutely. And drag queens.
Affectionately, including drag queens. It was just like really impressive. And I'm sure we'll get into it on the blueprint.
It was very progressive, the film. And we will dive into what that meant for the time. But there was an interesting through line about, there was like it did kind of deal with homophobia a little bit, the movie, and it was 2004 wasn't that long ago, and I was just very shocked kind of by some of the beats of that story, which we'll get into. So this movie is about drag, and I thought it'd be fun to start by talking about our overarching relationship or reactions to drag. Mm-hmm. Do you have any thoughts on any positive associations? Or no, I don't want to put any adjectives on you. Describe your relationship to drag, if at all.
I worked for this YouTube channel, and they had this series called Lineup where you kind of like go through and guess based on like stereotypes. And I edited Guess Who Does Drag. It was a lot of fun. That was kind of my first real exposure to it. I hadn't really gone to like drag shows. I'm really ashamed to say that I don't watch Drag Race. I do see clips every now and then. Thank you, Mama, for spilling, for sharing, for spilling. There's some quote that all the kids are saying.
I don't know what that's about.
Thank you, Mama, for sharing, for spilling.
Thank you, Mama, for sharing.
For spilling.
For spilling.
You have to say the for spilling afterwards too.
Well, you just say thank you, Mama, for sharing, for spilling.
Thank you, Mama, for sharing, comma, for spilling. It's just like a clip that I found that was really
Oh. I mean, I'm sure if I saw the clip, I'd find it funny.
And I've also been to Creme de la Creme and Jinx Monsoon do a Christmas show. And I went to that 2 years ago and it was a lot of fun.
Oh, very cool.
What about you?
Well, I guess I don't really have much knowledge of drag.
You have no knowledge of drag.
I have very little knowledge of drag, I would say. I've been.
What do you know?
I feel like I'm being cross-examined. But little did you know I did mock trial. And I was the witness, which meant I was trained to wiggle
for
out.
a drag race episode.
I haven't seen Drag Race. I've been to some drag like brunches or things like that. Maybe like I've seen. I had a friend or an acquaintance who was a drag performer. Mm-hmm. I don't actually think I ever saw her perform, but
she, her.
She was a female drag performer, if that makes sense. She was a woman who does drag, yes. So I feel a little bit out of the loop. In fact, I almost missed the boat, and you know this already, on Chapel Rowan. Like, what's going on with the album cover here? Well, what's with her appearance? Like, it kind of like freaked me out. And I am very easily scared, as Joe knows. Mm. So I feel like I need to get more into that side of the culture, I think, because I would have missed this fantastic music.
It's so funny that like Chapel Rowan, she's very much inspired. She absolutely pulls from like drag queens. Like I forget who her favorite drag queen is, but I like saw some. She's at like Capitol Hill Block Party, like
not that long
in
ago.
Awe of a performer. But when I saw her makeup, I didn't really think of it as drag.
What'd you think?
It looks like
a Lady Gaga thing.
I was getting more like Marie Antoinette, French powdered face. But I guess I'd only seen like a small like Spotify image of this riveting stuff that I'm talking about.
I'm riveted.
Anyway, I just like didn't connect it to drag, but now very clearly it's like, oh yes, it is drag.
But I find it interesting. Like I feel like it's an internalized, not quite homophobia thing, but it's like there's something about like, especially like maybe for queer women, like I feel like a lot of times out in the world, you've talked about how I've said this before maybe, and I never really thought about it, but like, if someone's dressing very like off-putting or like scary, it's kind of a way to keep the world at a distance, or maybe it can be seen that way. And that I'm like, no, don't do that. Like you want to be seen, or some part of me is like, don't be that way. Like
you feel like they're hiding behind?
No, I feel like I think it's freaky, or like I'm like trying to distance myself from that kind of like loud way of being out of my own fears and anxieties. When in reality, which almost made me not listen to music I love, because I was like, I can't really explain it.
Yeah, you're letting like the visuals cloud the
and my
experience.
assumptions about the visuals.
Okay,
and then hearing more about what she does, about how she really sees her perform this particular Chapel Rowan as like a performance, as a whole thing of performance art. Mm-hmm. It's like I'm totally missing the point. Anyway, I found it interesting.
Yeah.
But other than that, my only other drag kind of relationship to drag, or something about drag, is that I once performed in drag.
Whoa.
At the end of camp, we had to do a bunch of skits. And I was very shy back then. And two things happened. One, our cabin was going to do the song Grease Summer Lovin'. And everyone was very excited. We had to split into the girls and the boys. It was an all-girls camp. And So some people have to be the boys. And I just remember everyone was like clamoring over being the girls. And all of a sudden I was like, wait a second. I don't have to be a girl. That could be so fun. So then I played one of the greasers.
Yeah.
And then the next thing happened where everyone was like, we need people to impersonate the coaches. And there was a Canadian coach. And like, what if somebody gets up with like a Canadian flag on their back and just walks around saying like a bunch of times and sorry? Who wants to do that? And no one was raising their hand. And I was like, I'll do it. And my cabin leader was like, are you sure, Allison? Are you sure you want to do that? Because I just seemed so
Why were
shy.
you doing Canadian?
Because one of the other coaches, like we were supposed to be making fun of all the coaches at camp.
Oh, and you were at a Canadian camp?
No, there just was a Canadian coach who was like instructor. It was in the
So
Pacific
you were
Northwest.
in the drag in Greece impersonating a Canadian
Oh,
coach?
no, sorry. It was two parts. There was the part where we were in Greece.
Okay.
Then there was the second part.
You were in drag this whole time?
When I say I was in drag, I mean I was a fourth grader playing a boy.
Okay.
And I was, all right, I could go into many other times when this happened, but I feel like this isn't the most riveting material.
And I was in season 25 of RuPaul's Drag Race. I forgot to mention that.
I was, and you missed it. Moving back to Connie and Carla. Our friend told us that the origin of this movie was that after My Big Fat Greek Wedding, Nia Vardalos was given carte blanche. Carte,
She was given a blank check.
is that how you say that?
I don't know.
Carte blanche. Carte blanche.
What does that mean?
Blank check. It means blank check.
Oh. Okay.
To do whatever she wanted. And so she decided to do this drag movie that was very campy, very silly, very goofy, kind of like a Some Like It Hot meets a Mamma Mia, I would say,
Yeah.
in tone. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. And after I watched the movie, I was like, wow, I had such a great time. That was awesome. But I had no idea. Did you know that she wrote Connie and Carla?
Well, didn't she write My Big Fat Greek Wedding?
Yeah. Not only did she write...
Did I screw up your punchline?
Yeah.
Not only did she write Connie and Carla, but she also wrote My Big Fat Greek Wedding.
She did, but how did I not know that? Like, I am so floored by this. How did I not know that she wrote that movie? I really thought she was just the actress from My Big Fat Greek Wedding.
Wow.
Which I feel
Yeah, I don't know
awful.
if I don't know when I knew.
I had no idea.
I think by the time My Big Fat Greek Wedding 3 came out and it got kind of shit on because the poster
it was really
was
bad.
really
Photoshopped.
bad. And I think I was like stalking on Wikipedia and noticed that she wrote / produced that. And then so it also caused me to, dip back and see what else she worked on. And that's when I found out.
Well, that was so kind of recently then.
Yeah. But yeah, I just remember like Connie and Carla, I always kind of like resisted it because
I didn't even know what it was.
my more closeted self like didn't want to like watch any of this form of entertainment in fear of being outed. And I think that Connie and Carla like fell into that
I mean,
area.
definitely. It was,
For me, definitely for me.
not for you, but just like it's a very...
I know you. Definitely.
It's just a very loud movie.
It's loud, yeah.
But yeah, just a little bit more about Nia. I actually titled this segment The Nia Corner, so I could talk about her.
In all caps, all bold.
So she's Canadian.
Ah.
I don't know why.
Well, pull out a little drag performance right now. Pretend she's your soccer coach.
Sorry. I should have just said sorry. Sorry. I should have just said sorry.
All right.
I put down green American. I don't know what that meant.
Like maybe she like was pursuing her green card to become American.
Canadian Greek American. She's Canadian and Greek American. Sorry, Nia.
I just love the frenzy in which
This is the first one I did, and I think I did it like very quickly. I feel like my other ones are a little bit better. What's so impressive about the fact that she wrote My Big Fat Greek Wedding is that it was a sleeper hit that became one of the highest grossing independent films of all time and the #1 romantic comedy of all time, which I'm wondering if that's still true. Do you
Probably
think that's
not.
probably true? What would you say is the newest, highest grossing
comedy.
romantic comedy?
Anyone But You's probably topped it by now.
I didn't see Anyone But You, but I've seen My Big Fat Greek Wedding. Like, clearly, the highest grossing rom-com of all time. I probably will have seen it. I'm going to look it up.
That came out in 2000. Wait, let me guess.
Okay, you guess, and you can have 2 guesses.
How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. Failure to Launch. Sex in the City 1.
All right. February 18th.
Wait. Just tell me the year and I'll guess.
It's from 2016. I don't think you'll be able to guess.
2016.
It's an international film.
Is it French?
No.
Is it British?
The Chinese Hong Kong fantasy film The Mermaid takes first place for the highest grossing romantic comedy so far, garnering $525 million. And I actually don't know how to say this number. 5 million.
What?
How do you say 5 million? 525.
Is this like the laundry machine again? I came home one day and I'm walking upstairs where a laundry machine is, and Allison's just like standing in the hallway. I'm like, yes. And Allison looks at me. She's like, how do you wash clothes again? I was like, what do you mean? You like literally just did a load like 2 days ago. I know. I don't remember.
No.
Like, I've been using the tricycle and I don't know if I've just been drying my clothes the last 2 months.
It was a frightening moment where I was like, wait a second. Have I?
Is it just like one of those situations where you like, it's usually on autopilot, and then as soon as you like become conscious, you're like, how the hell do I do this?
Well, I just kind of felt like, have I even been doing it right? I think I was.
Like, you've always just been drying your clothes the entire 3 years we've been living together.
I feel like I would have noticed. Well, I can't say this number because 5 million. If it's 525, 018, 525, 018, 479. That's 5,525 million.
What?
How do you say that number?
525 million, like 600,000.
But it's 18. 525.
Well, sure, but that's like the general idea.
But how do you say like
500 million, $18,000
and 400? Oh, 525 million.
$18,430.
$18,479.
Nice.
Wow. It broke a lot of box office records, including the biggest opening day and the biggest single day gross. It focuses on a womanizer businessman who ultimately falls with a mermaid sent to assassinate him. Honestly, that sounds pretty good. But okay. Other articles say...
Let's leave it at that. The Mermaid, good enough.
Well, I just want to see if this other article agrees. 1 second. This other article does say My Big Fat Greek Wedding. So I think maybe domestically it's My Big Fat Greek Wedding. But all right, back to my list. Why do we think it was so popular, My Big Fat Greek Wedding? And how do you think it compares to, say, movies that have become popular that are quote-unquote
Why is it
rom-coms?
so popular?
Yeah, why do you think it resonated so much or was such a sleeper hit?
Well, it's like a really charming, family-friendly movie. Like, it's the last movie I'm pretty sure my grandparents in Pontiac, Illinois went and saw, and they went and saw it with us.
Wait, I'm kind of stuck on that, though. That was the last movie they ever saw?
Yeah, like 2002. Did it come out in 2002?
2004.
No, My Big Fat Greek Wedding.
Oh. 2002.
Yeah, they didn't go to the movies that much. They were older. What are you doing? Are you thinking about how to turn the washer on again?
Do you mean like with you?
No, that's the last movie they saw in theaters.
Wow.
And they watched a lot of stuff just at home, you know?
Oh, okay. That's fair.
It's not like they never turned on the TV again.
I was like, what do you mean? They never saw another piece of entertainment?
Hard for us to understand. We see 3 movies in the theater a week. They didn't have AMC A-list back then. It would have been a very different situation.
Okay, so you think
what
family
was your
friendly?
question?
Like, why do you
it's
think
family
it's so
friendly?
successful?
It's also like it was like the biggest independent film also.
Yeah.
So I think it had a really low, like it was made for less money than a big studio picture.
Yeah.
Do you know the answer, or are we just speculating?
No, I was just speculating. I kind of think, and this kind of will later tie into some things I have to say about Connie and Carla and maybe why I didn't do as well at the time. It was a movie where it told an immigrant story, and I think a lot of people were craving to see something like that on the screen that probably hadn't been seen a lot. So I think that was pretty resonant. People could see their families in it. So like what you were saying about it being family friendly, that'd be 1. 2, I think it centered around a woman who wasn't, I mean, she's a very beautiful woman, but I feel like the fact that in the beginning of the movie, she starts off kind of like the Anne Hathaway, what's that, Princess Diaries? That same kind of
a makeover movie.
A swan movie.
It's like the Miss Congeniality.
Yes. And
Devil Wears Prada.
There were so many of that moment that centered around that kind of fairy tale, but also the sense that like a woman And also kind of like Moonstruck in a way, like a
the
woman.
classic ugly duckling story.
Yeah, and yet I think, as I recall, that she does have agency in this movie. In My Big Fat Greek Wedding, she stands up to her family, stuff like that. But it's just interesting to contrast that to movies that ended up having big success or big splashy success when we were like in the early 2010s. Like I'm thinking of like Bridesmaids, which was just all about kind of messy women, and the romance plots are like secondary. I feel like we came a long way, and I do think like part of Connie and Carla, I think, suffered from two problems. One, people weren't ready to watch a bunch of gay people on TV or in the movie theater.
Big screen.
And I think there was some sexism operating as well, which I'll get into in a little bit. But I think that was just the 2000s. Not a great time.
Yeah. Not the best.
Not the best time, but
could
there
have
were
been
some
worse.
fun movies that came out.
And also a fact that our friends told us.
Yes.
Apparently, Toni Collette was so devastated with how the movie performed that she almost quit acting after that.
I'm going to Google
Which
that.
is so disappointing because she brought so much heart. Both of them brought a lot of heart to the performances. But Toni, especially Toni.
I think I read in my research now, I didn't put this down, so I could be wrong, but I think I read that she never wanted to sing again in a movie after this.
And so it's their real singing voices.
I think so.
Wow.
Okay, so it does seem like this is an article from the Manchester Evening News.
That's my most reliable source.
Which I guess it's a real newspaper, but it's a 2007 article. And it said that a few years ago, it says the 31-year-old, she felt like her flourishing acting career was taking away too much from her own emotional life. I was ready to quit it all. I felt like it was all being poured through the mouths and lives of other people. What's interesting is that this article was published mere days from the release of Connie and Carla.
What movie?
This article about how
The
Toni
article came out before Connie and Carla, and Toni was already talking about quitting?
Yeah.
Wait, this article came out in 2007?
Yeah. Wait.
The movie came out in 2004.
It says it right here, though.
What's going on the Manchester, whatever the fuck?
Yeah, that is actually kind of weird. Well, you know what? Maybe it came out in the UK later.
There's just a 3-year delay.
Or maybe it was published online in 2007. All right.
Okay. Unclear.
All right, but before we kind of get into the movie a little bit more, I do want to just say I'm still so blown away by Nia Vardalos. Like, after I found out she wrote My Big Fat Greek Wedding and Connie and Carla, I started looking into her background. So like I said, she was a Second City alum. She was truly, for her first directorial debut, or no, it was her second film, My Life in Ruins, she was given permission to film at the Acropolis.
But that's not part of the Greek universe.
No.
Oh.
Well, no, I don't think so. My Life in Ruins? Well, maybe. I don't know. I don't think so. Wouldn't it be called... No. They would have said it was My Big Fat Greek Wedding. Yeah,
also, it's such a 2000s thing where My Big Fat Greek Wedding, I mean, it was a rare smash hit, but it was so big that it like automatically was getting turned into a TV show. And I remember like my family were like so excited we tuned in for it, and it just didn't have the same gusto as the movie. And they also recast like her love interest / the husband. I think most people showed it except for the husband.
I liked the husband.
But then
He has such nice hair.
He really does. He showed up again for the sequel and the third one, which I thought was nice.
That's very nice.
Yeah.
Yay, you. Wait, can I just say a few more things about Nia?
Well, I was about to just say, without even knowing the woman, I just feel like she'd be a really friendly and kind of badass woman.
I mean, she totally is. I had no idea. She also starred in and then adapted
Tiny Beautiful Things.
Tiny Beautiful Things, which is the
I read it off the sheet.
Cheryl Strayed. She was an advice columnist who then went hiking on the Pacific Crest Trail and wrote Wild, which is a movie that was then adapted into a movie by Reese Witherspoon. And then her advice column got turned into this play. I actually saw it in Chicago, and I saw like a talk back afterward where they talked about the actors and like the director talked about the play. It was very cool. And then anyway, Joe, like maybe a year or two ago, was like, oh my gosh, this show I've been watching, it's so great. Tiny Beautiful Things, we should watch it. It's got, what was the actress's? Catherine Hahn in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched the pilot, but I unfortunately did not continue.
I only got like 2 or 3 more episodes in before I
gave up.
will not give up, but there's just so much TV.
There's so much out there. But were you like having everybody watch it?
I did. I do this thing where I get really excited about a TV show, then I introduce it to everyone. Most famously, the OA. I was obsessed with that show. I probably rewatched that first episode 7 to 8 times, reintroducing it to new people.
Okay. The one thing about the OA that every time it comes up, I have to talk about.
Yeah.
The dance movements.
I love it until the finale.
Did you see that they're going to be working with Three Sisters, or what's the name of that production company? It's like a very cool production company for their future project. So maybe you'll get some more OA.
I don't think so. I think they're done with that. Right? Is it like tied to Netflix? How would that work?
Oh, that's true. That's true. That's true.
Did you get that information from Manchester? Whatever the hell that.
From 3 years from now? Yes. Yes. The OA is alive and well. Okay. She also starred in a podcast, wrote a New York Times bestselling memoir about adopting her daughter.
I've never heard someone starring in a podcast.
I guess like a narrative podcast.
Oh. I don't really listen to those.
I listened to one that was half narrative.
What was it called?
It was called Appearances. It was called Appearances created by Sharon Mashihi. And it's basically, it's described as a one-woman show that straddles the line between fiction and truth. And it's about her growing up in, I think, Shaker Heights, in a Persian family, and how she just kind of always didn't really fit into the cultural expectations or the expectations her family had or community had for her growing up. And then it kind of deviates from her real life, but she, in the present, is trying to decide she wants to have a baby on her own. But she knows her parents will never understand that. So it's kind of, especially her mom. So it's kind of about how she will go and tell her mom. And then it's like what happens next. But the what happens next is all imagined, I'm pretty sure. And it's very good.
Well, Connie and Carla is not imagined. No, well, it was imagined by Nia.
It was. Yes. Okay. So she started a podcast. She wrote a best-selling New York Times memoir about adopting her daughter out of the foster care system called Instant Mom. And she donated all of the proceeds to adoption groups. I'm just kind of floored by this lady. She's amazing.
It's wonderful.
It's amazing. And so I just she's like a really cool lady. She wrote Connie and Carla. So she's obviously an ally, because I just feel like to come off of the goodwill of My Big Fat Greek Wedding, decide to write this project, which had a very strong positive LGBTQ message and showcase the community in a positive, normalizing, fun light.
Yeah.
Not everyone would do something like that. So I really applaud her. And I kind of have been wondering if my assumptions about her or lack thereof have to do with like kind of like dowdy character that she played in My Big Fat Greek Wedding.
What does dowdy mean?
What do you think it means? To quiz you a little.
Well, dowdy is like, it's spelled Dowdy. Like, never seen that word before.
Oh.
A dowdy character.
I can give you an example. Well, okay, just think of her in the beginning of the movie. A dowdy woman.
She's kind of like resistant to conform, but is also kind of like cynical at the same time.
I think that you're thinking of it in a deeper character way, when it actually is a very shallow thing. And it speaks to why I didn't expect much of her.
Tell me.
I just think like she in the beginning is kind of this like sad, shy, someone not focused on her appearance kind of a woman.
Yeah.
And so like just like in the beginning of the movie, people are overlooking her or like kind of feeling sorry for her. I wonder if like in my adolescent brain, when I saw that movie, even though she ends up looking, very fabulous as the movie goes on, did I like just assume that she was just some actress? And then I guess too, hearing about the sequels and kind of seeing them as sort of like sad attempts to reclaim glory, especially with that whole poster situation.
Oh.
Like maybe I just kind of like without even thinking made this
assumption. You tied her real person as a dowdy person.
Not consciously, but I do think my shock, like I'm surprised I'm so shocked by this.
Yeah.
I just think it speaks to our unconscious biases.
I always thought she was a badass.
Well, that's good for you. No, actually, it's really good for you. I'm glad. All right. Now we're going to the Toni corner.
I love the movies that you list. The Sixth Sense, yes.
She was coming off the success of The Sixth Sense.
What is Shaft?
I don't know. That's what it said.
About a boy. I didn't know that she was in that. The Hours. I didn't know that she was in that. And I've never heard a Japanese story. Are these all movies that really resonate with you? That's why you listed them on this sheet?
No, I listed them because they were the movies that came out before she did Connie and Carla. So she's like on a bit of a hot streak. Whether or not we remember these movies, I feel like they were listed because
Shaft was a good movie. What
I think maybe
it
did well. It's an action crime movie. Oh, it might be a series. Crooked cops on the take, small time drug lords, sleazy informers, and sadistic rich kids ready to kill. For police detective John Shaft is just another night in the underbelly of New York City. Another shift facing down cops and criminals who want him dead, and a legal system that thrive on money, not justice. And directed by John Singleton, whose name I recognize because he also did Boys in the Hood, Too Fast, Too Furious.
These are some of your favorite movies.
No, but I recognize his name.
Well, I recognize Toni Collette
Snowfall
from one of my favorite movies, Muriel's Wedding.
I've seen that movie.
Which is so wonderful. I know you've seen it because it's featuring ABBA music everywhere.
But see, when I saw it, I think it was like maybe in college, or it was before I went to college and I was in some kind of like accepted students day to go to a class.
Okay.
And I remember it was kind of like lost on me a little bit. I was like, what is this weird movie? So I kind of want to see it again because I feel like I would like it.
It was lost on you? I loved it the first time I saw it.
I was very naive as a child.
Did you not know ABBA at that point?
Probably. I mean, I probably knew what the word
When did you start
was.
liking ABBA? That was like the first thing we moved with each other. I assumed that you were ABBA's biggest fan.
I started liking ABBA when I saw Mamma Mia 1.
Which was before you went to college.
Well,
Something's going on with like Manchester and you with your timeline. Something's going on.
Maybe I'm.
Your story's not lining up.
You're figuring me out. Okay, and then I also think it's important for us to note that this film featured all local drag queens.
But really quick, that's it. We're done with the Tony corner. We spent like 2 hours with Nia, and you just blast through. You're like Shaft, Fast and the Furious. We're done.
Who was she in the hours? I actually kind of want to know.
I don't know.
That's a movie I've never seen. It's kind of crazy that this movie with Meryl Streep, Julianne Moore, and who's the other person in this movie?
Nicole Kidman, who won the Oscar.
Oh yeah, Nicole Kidman.
Nicole Kidman, whose nose won the Oscar.
And Nicole Kidman. We're all in this movie, and so is Toni Collette, and nobody
Remembers that Toni Collette
knows
was there.
it. Who was she? Kitty. Wolf's model for Mrs. Dalloway was her childhood friend, Kitty Max. Almost Kitty verbatim, Virginia wrote to her sister Vanessa concerning Mrs. Dalloway. What would happen if she guessed? That was in a letter to her sister Susan. And then a letter to her sister Susan, Kitty summed up their childhood days with what a lark it all was. And that was the British corner.
We need to work on these things that aren't related to the movie, make them a little more succinct, because this is now like the third thing you've gone on an in-depth
I think it makes it interesting.
synopsis on.
All right. So
The local drag queens.
Yes. The movie also featured a ton of local drag queens, including Just in Time, Carlotta Girl, Summer Clearance, Divana DeMille, Seymour Illusion, and Helena Handbag. And
I know you skipped the first one.
because I think I dropped off a letter.
I would have guessed that it was probably a J.
Joni. Joni. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And we didn't look up where they are today.
Joni, I'm on her Instagram. She's still posting.
That's awesome. And now, let's get into it.
Let's
All right. What do you remember about the plot of the movie? Can you, or do you want me to summarize? You should try. You should do it.
imagine Sister Act. And that's kind of all you need to know. 2 women who work in an airport together performing musical numbers, cabaret style.
With very few attendees in the audience.
Accidentally switch bags with someone, and then they witness a murder in a parking lot, and then they have to go on the run.
Because they scream very loudly so the murderers see them. And the murderers may be connected to their boyfriends who kind of suck.
And then they go to West Hollywood to hide out. And then they're trying to figure out a way to make money, and they're trying to form places no one will hire them. And they just one night go out to a bar that turns out to be a gay bar, and they decide to perform in drag.
They see the drag performers perform and they're like, oh my gosh, it's amazing. But Toni, I think, is like, wait a second, we could do that. No, I think it's actually Nia who's like, we could do that. We're just as good. So then they kind of get the idea, and then they decide to try out. And what really sets them apart is everybody else is lip syncing, but they're actually singing and everyone's stunned and floored and nobody sees through their disguise and can tell that they're real women.
Yeah, how would they not know that they weren't like singing to a track unless the owner?
No, they did know. Oh, I see what you're saying. Well, the owner probably knew, but nobody in the audience anticipated.
They did know. They were singing live and everyone knew.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, I'm sorry. I confused myself.
Then they're getting very successful, which is drawing a lot of attention. And on the one hand, it's really good because the community, they want in on the act to kind of get a piece of the pie. And Connie and Carla are like want to be friends, even if they don't want to be found out. So they do kind of incorporate them into the act. They help the bar like build a whole new stage area. And of course, it's attracting a lot of attention, which is kind of bad because those murderers out there looking for them. And then there's a subplot about
David Duchovny, who plays the character Jeff.
Oh, yes.
Who wants to rekindle his relationship with his brother, who is Robert / drag queen Peaches.
Yes.
Played by Steven Spinella. And there's a whole story of them trying to rekindle their relationship. And then David Duchovny, interestingly enough, starts falling for Nia.
Who is Connie.
Who's Connie. Well, it's going to be hard to remember.
Yeah, I just looked it up now. We can say Nia, I guess. And it's
a will they, won't they, but it's confusing for Jeff because he's straight.
Yeah.
Or he thought he was straight.
I just thought he was straight. Well, a bolder, more 2020-something movie would be like, maybe I'm not so straight after all.
Yeah, but instead this one was like, he was like, whoa! Honestly, we're not making fun of it. Was just at the time, it's like funny looking at through these lines.
Is. And I wrote the part I added was to talk about the homophobia in the movie. Do you want to talk about it now?
I mean, there's like still some for sure. There's like this whole, aside from that, like
or how it explores homophobia, I should say.
It made me nervous every now and then when Jeff comes. He just seems to be so like, I'm not used to this. I haven't been around gay people. I haven't been around men dressing in women's clothing, like totally missing the whole purpose of drag in the first place. And so that was kind of always rough to get. He was like, David Duchovny's wonderful. And for the time it was like really bold and modern. But of course, like now that we're watching in the modern day, a lot of it was kind of like, oh, like you're right there, but you're a little off.
I mean, I think it was accurate for the time, but it disturbed me was that one night when Jeff's having a hard time and maybe Connie's, because there's also like tension between Connie and Carla where one of them really wants to make it big here and the other one has more reservations, and maybe it flip-flops through the movie. And then when Connie starts like hanging out with Jeff, Carla feels a little bit abandoned and is confused because she doesn't, I think they made a pact not to like date anyone. I forget what was going on there, but that's one subplot. And then there was this moment where they're both having a hard time and they're in a bar together. And Connie and Carla never can step out of their disguises. They can never reveal themselves, even though I don't know how anybody wouldn't know.
Yeah.
In this day and age, it'd be like, well, they're, who knows what's going on. We're all, we got Chapel Row, we all got every kind of person out there, and it doesn't necessarily say anything about your gender. But back then, I just feel like it would have been really, what was going on would have been pretty obvious. But they're in a bar, and Jeff has no idea. And he and Connie are having a deep conversation. I can't quite remember what it was about.
Oh,
but they end up kissing.
Oh, yeah.
And his reaction was so disturbing. He acted disgusted. Yeah, he basically acted disgusted. And I was just so, I guess that was the culture at the time. But I was just really like,
yeah,
I'm sorry.
But also it like speaks to my own like assumptions. It's like you're spending a lot of time with this person who's like friends with your brother, like alone time. Like what
do you think
is going on here? But then a part of me too is like, no, like straight people should be able to hang out with
absolutely
gay people without there being a question of their sexuality. But it's like interesting in this movie. Like I feel like it was very clear, like setting up this like romantic plot. And then, yeah, it's like in the end, it turns out that Connie is a woman. So like Jeff was
all fine.
It was all like fine. But yeah, it's like, what was it? I mean, really, his sexuality, is more of a spectrum than he may think.
Yeah. I think they were just trying to like push the needle as best they could. Yeah. And also, was written by, I'm assuming, a straight person. And maybe, it was 2004. I just feel like we can't expect it to be what a movie like today would be like. No. But
so I'd say through our eyes today, it's actually really impressive.
It's absolutely impressive.
they accomplished this.
Yeah. And I'll just say one of the only other moment that was like kind of underscoring the homophobia that I remember at the time was Jeff. He's engaged and he wants, the reason he's trying to reconnect with his brother.
He's engaged this whole time.
I have a good memory sometimes.
Yeah.
The reason he wants to reconnect with his brother is because he really wants his brother to be there for his wedding. And so they do kind of make strides over the course of the movie until his fiance shows up. I think she was like, "Where have you been?" Because you've been
Which is really strange. And like, where was he visiting from, and why did he tell her where he was?
I don't know.
But clearly they have a very rocky relationship. And then she like sees them out on the streets in West Hollywood. She's like, "Who are all these freaks?"
So they're about to go to the show, and it's like really sad moment. It's also like, look around where you are, lady.
Yeah.
You know, like what the hell? And then he kind of leaves with her. So the implication is that he's chosen her over
his
brother. And also, like, she acted atrociously, even if she was that homophobic and that ignorant about culture and location. She still acted. You don't call people freaks who are just minding their own business. You know what I'm saying? But yes, he chooses her over them. But then the big moment in the end is that he shows up. And like the climax is very fun. It's like they do their last drag performance. The murderers have found them. So they're trying to like capture Connie and Carla while they're trying to perform. It's chaos. Debbie Reynolds is there.
I was going to say, you got to mention Debbie Reynolds. This whole time they are like, what's the word? Like fawning over Debbie Reynolds. Like, she's like the most amazing person. She's singing in the rain. She's like the most incredible singing actor ever. And then she shows up and she's like featured in like a lot of the third act. They cut to her all the time.
She's like lounging on a piano.
Lounging on the piano. She's like in the audience, like watching, like reacting. It was hilarious.
It was so funny. And then they end up escaping the police with the help of the. Well, what happens? Something really funny happens where they get caught by the murderers, but then the police show up and capture them. I can't remember, but it all comes to like a hilarious crescendo. And then Jeff turns up because he does want to be there for his brother's show. And then Carla, whose arc I can't remember. I wish I could remember because I feel like it was powerful. One of them decides it's time to tell the truth.
Yeah,
and so they reveal
Carla.
their women.
Yeah.
And everybody like, they explain, we just really wanted to be our true, like ourselves. You know, we needed to hide. Whatever they said, it like worked both as a metaphor for drag and as a metaphor for two women trying to hide from murderers. So it was very moving, and the community was like, "We get it. We've been there, even if murderers have been chasing us." And then when Jeff realizes she's a woman, they kiss. I'm pretty sure, and that's the end of the movie. But
which did lead me again, as we questioned before. It's like you were attracted to this person when you thought they
were a man.
But
yeah, so all this to say, we had a very positive experience. I feel like it was very similar to our reaction to Bros, where we were like, that was so fun. I'm on such a high. I loved that film. And then, I mean, we kind of already knew this from our friend, but I kind of looked into the reception of the film, and it was very negative.
That's surprising. The fact that it didn't perform well doesn't surprise me, but the fact that it got so negatively reviewed. But I guess when you've done My Big Fat Greek Wedding and like the bar is so high.
True.
And then you really go after this like blank check, like I'm going to make this movie that I would not have been able to have made had I not made one of the biggest.
It didn't have so much goodwill.
Grossing romantic comedies ever. Yeah, I guess, I don't know. And the fact that it's like starring women.
Yeah. Well, I think that's really what's going to be the heart of what's going on here. That and the fact that the audience wasn't ready for it.
Because even in, like you mentioned Bridesmaids, even in 2011, it felt so rare for like this raunchy comedy starring women.
Starring only women, really.
Without a male love interest.
Like John Hamm's
barely
there.
in the background. Yeah.
And what's his name? The Irish cop with the...
I love him.
Anyway, I'm going to give you some facts. The numbers. Budget of...
Wait, are these from the Manchester publication? If so, I don't want to hear them.
I didn't write down my sources. I'm living on the edge. It was budget of $27 million. It made $8 million domestically. And $3 million foreign. Opened at 13th. 44%.
How many people in Manchester do you think saw this movie?
Well, since the article was published 3 years later. I don't know.
They didn't have Amazon Prime back then. It took them a while to ship things across the pond.
Our friend did say one thing that wasn't true, which is that it's not available on any streaming. It's like hard to find, and it's a cult classic. It is, I believe it's probably a cult classic, but I believe it's on streaming. So
what services?
I didn't write it down. Probably.
I thought we were here to learn facts.
44% on Rotten Tomatoes. The site's consensus was the two female leads, as well as energetic musical numbers, enliven an otherwise silly reworking of Billy Wilder's Some Like It Hot. And I'm curious. I've never seen Something Like It Hot. which is horrible. Don't tell my dad. He'll be very upset because he loves that movie and he's talked about it a lot. And I think I maybe have occasionally pretended I've seen it, even though I haven't. So
wait, so your father he has a lot of favorite movies.
Yeah, he does.
Including Working Girl.
Which I love.
Love Actually.
Yeah.
But Working Girl you'd only seen recently.
I loved it.
But you didn't pretend like you had seen that.
Because I feel like my dad and my sister quote Working Girl a lot in a way that I feel like I've seen it. Do you know what I'm saying? And so it's
but
more
you
like a matter
actively
of pride.
said that you resisted watching it because they quoted it so much.
Because it was, you know.
But you didn't seem to be shy about that fact with your father. It seemed like he knew that you didn't watch that movie.
Yeah.
But then when it comes to Something Like It Hot, you don't want him to know for some reason. Even though Working Girl, it was totally fine that he didn't know. But Something Like It Hot, whoa.
I'm being cross-examined again. I guess it's something to do with the prestige factor of the movie. Which, I guess I'm a movie snob deep down inside.
Something Like It Hot, I think I had
there?
only seen it fairly recently.
Oh, I want to see it.
Because I was visiting my parents when they were staying down in San Diego, and it was shot in San Diego.
Oh, did you like it? What would you? How does it compare?
A Sister Act is like a
better comparison.
not a better comparison, but it's just like a little more like revamped and kind of like
The tone
modernized for a modern audience, even though it came out in like 92, 91 maybe.
Okay. All right.
I think.
Okay, well, I'm going to quickly read a couple other quotes. This is from the London Standard Times. I don't know why
What is going on? Why is it all the UK?
I don't know. London.
I mean, maybe something to do with like
Tony being Australian. They love the Aussies.
Australians. They do. Do they?
Well, they're kind of.
Was this on the fact sheet?
I see you close the fact sheet.
I'm actively listening. I'm sorry.
That's true. It's fine.
That's why I was able to
prefer it.
conclude the strangeness of why you had seen Working Girl, but didn't see Something Like It Hot.
I prefer it. Okay. London Standard Times in 2017.
Okay.
So this is a more recent review.
Even more. This is 10 years after the Manchester publication. What is the Manchester site called? I keep calling it the Manchester publication.
I actually want to read that 1 second. I'm going to read the quote from the Roger Ebert.
Is it actual Roger Ebert or from his website?
I actually think it is. But I'm not sure.
What year was it? You said facts.
So I recently wrote down a Roger Ebert review for another podcast we're doing, and I made a point to see if it was Roger himself, and it was Roger himself. He gave it 1.5 stars, and he said, "I think maybe the point in Some Like It Hot was that Joey Brown fell in love with Jack Lemmon, not Marilyn Monroe. I'm not saying Connie and Carla would have been better if Connie had attracted a gay guy, or maybe a lesbian who saw through the drag, but at least that would have supplied a comic problem, not a romantic one."
What is he saying?
I think he's saying, like, I haven't seen Some Like It Hot, but I think he's saying, like, in that movie, they're dressing up as a different gender, but it's like, it's almost as the movie's positing that is true, and so it lets them fall in love with these opposite gender or same gender characters. Whereas in Connie and Carla, as we can see from like the homophobic response and the end, where it's like the fairy tale end, kind of like a Shrek ending. Oh, I'm a girl after all. Like it's really like a romantic conundrum, and not. I don't know. Actually, I guess without having seen Some Like It Hot,
I also should say that I got really tired toward the end of the movie, and I went to bed, so I didn't finish Some Like It Hot. But I do know there's a clip where Jack Lemmon's on a boat with a man, but he's still in drag.
Yeah.
He says, "I may not be a woman," and then the guy's like, we can work through
anything.
Other relationships have had bigger problems like that. Yeah. We can work through anything. Is that the end of the movie?
I think so. I think we watched that clip in film class, and
did you tell your dad about that?
Probably. The idea was like, and maybe it could work, kind of a thing. Whereas in Connie and Carla, that's not really, I don't know. I'm not quite sure. But I pulled this other review from 2017 that I think hits the nail on the head. It's really not I think that they're saying this genuinely, but I think it speaks to what's underneath all of this. It's not really that complicated. Connie and Carla flounders because while men dressing up as women is funny, jumping up as men is not. And I think
they're not dressing up as men.
That's a good point. I think what they mean is that men dressing up as a woman
is funny
in our culture, and it's maybe shifting a little bit. It's like, haha, how embarrassing. Whereas like women doing drag, there's like no humor in it. Either it's just like, okay, not a big, if it's like everyday life, walking around in pants, something, we're so far past that. Or it's like, if you're too far on the masculine spectrum, you're in a very like straight conservative environment, it might be seen as like gross, but not funny. Like, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Which speaks to the weird combo of homophobia and sexism.
Right. It's so interesting because I know with like Drag Race, it started off with a lot of men in drag, which drag is kind of like the female form, like in its most like glamorous and exaggerated at times. And I think a lot of women were like boxed out of doing drag, or it was like questionable whether they should be on Drag Race. And it's like so interesting as a homosexual how you can be like, oh, I'm like a minority in this area, but then like you can still be like prejudiced, or you can still like box people out.
Yeah.
And so it's like interesting for people to think that like women can't do drag.
Yeah.
And it's like, how dare you prevent women from
embodying the glamorized, exaggerated version of womanhood.
Yes.
In fact, when you put it like that, since we have to perform femininity all the time, we should be able to do it because in a way that's
and I think
empowering.
Now in the year 2024, it's definitely you're seeing a lot more. And on Drag Race, there's women performing drag on there too.
Yeah. No, but I think it's such a good point because, and like I was just kind of, what I was trying to say in the beginning was like my internal reaction to maybe not thinking much of the woman from My Big Fat Greek Wedding, just subconsciously never really thinking about her. But if you had to ask me about her, I'd be like, oh, she's some actress or whatever. Or me like looking at an album cover of Chapel Row and being like, weird, I wouldn't like that. Mm-hmm. Come to find out, I love Chapel Row and music, and I'm so impressed by Nia Vardalos. And it's like that unconscious bias that kind of speaks to like the way that we're marginalized. Mm-hmm. And it's like a protective thing, right? Like I don't want to be seen as weird or off-putting to others. So I will distance myself from things that look weird or off-putting. I don't want to seem dowdy or like pathetic. And so I'll like in my mind be like, I'm not like that. That stuff's weird. But really it's just a projection.
Yeah, it's like interesting how your perceptions to something from like a very like visual sense with Chapel Rowan, or kind of like the like character that Nia was playing in My Big Fat Greek Wedding, you were like making assumptions about like both those subconsciously, kind of, and being like, oh, that's like kind of bizarre. I don't think that's for me. Yeah. Only to discover that
it's very much
you
for me.
Absolutely love it. It's wonderful, and you are part of the Pink Pony Club.
I'm definitely part of the Pink Pony Club. I just want to go dancing at the Pink Pony Club.
Yeah, in West Hollywood.
Yes.
Who would you cast as Connie and Carla today?
Who would I cast? Okay, so should they be like roughly the same age, or what are the rules? What are the parameters?
There's no rules.
I'd want them to be goofy, kind of like Toni and Nia were in that movie. Maybe Io Idaribi.
Yes.
And I was gonna say, because I just saw her walking around in Los Feliz, Rachel Sennett, but I can't say that because that's the cast of Bottoms. That's cheating. Oh, what about the girl? What about the girl from theater camp? I feel like she could pull it off.
Yeah, I mean, but they were both in theater camp together.
Okay, no, it has to be somebody else.
What about the girl from High School Musical?
Vanessa Hudgens. Yeah. Actually, after seeing her in what's that movie 3090?
I forget, but she was good in that.
Agreed.
But you know, Nicole Kidman and Sandra Bullock are coming back for Practical Magic 2. We might as well just bring back Nia and Toni.
I was actually going to say that. I think
Connie
it would be
Carla
funny.
Too.
It deserves to have a renaissance.
Yeah.
We're not going to be able to.
Yeah, I've never seen clips.
Me neither. That was really fun when we watched it. It was an old DVD, so we got to see like the old startup menu. And on TikTok, I've been seeing DVD commentary pop up from Grey's Anatomy, like the actors from like the first season. It's like so nostalgic for me.
Did you want to launch into a 20-sentence description of the plot of Grey's Anatomy now?
No, I'm going to assume, I'm going to respect my viewers and assume that they know the plot of Grey's Anatomy. If they don't, I don't know what they're doing here.
We've never done Grey's on this show.
Have you seen Grey's?
Yes. There was a wonderful time where my freshman year of high school, my spring break was different than my sister's. My sisters and mom went on a trip to Arizona. And then my dad and I bought the first season of Grey's Anatomy.
You told me that before I forgot.
And each ate a pint of Ben & Jerry's ice cream.
Wait, that's so sweet. Well.
Where are we at now in the blueprint?
Time for a quiz. I want you to guess all of the musicals that were referenced in Connie and Carla. And for context, one of the most fun parts about this movie is that there are a lot of performances from Connie and Carla and the other drag queens, and almost all of them are referencing musicals.
Aren't there like 20 plus?
Like around 18. So just guess a few. I'll keep score.
Jesus Christ Superstar, Chicago, Cabaret,
Maybe this is the most exciting thing to watch, I'm realizing.
How about I just get 5?
Okay.
Jesus Christ Superstar, Chicago, Cabaret, Yentl, and that's all I got.
Okay, well, there's so many. Like Oklahoma, Cats, The Rocky Horror Show.
They do Rocky Horror Picture Show?
But they're calling it The Rocky Horror Show on Wikipedia, which is wrong. So Wikipedia.
Maybe it's the podcast version. There was no image.
Evita, South Pacific, Funny Girl, Thoroughly Modern Millie, The Producers,
gosh,
Steak and
how
Gracie.
Ah.
There were more than I thought. Never Gonna Dance, Gypsy Chicago, Mamma Mia, Longest Journey into Night,
Oh my goodness.
Master Harold and the Boys,
I love
Avenue
that
Q,
one.
Man of La Mancha, and Hairspray.
That's great.
Hair, The Music Man, Grease, A Chorus Line, and Guys and Dolls. Oh. Some of these are things they just mentioned.
I was going to say, I don't remember them singing Grease at all. But
Okay. Well, for Grease,
what's your favorite song from Grease? And what's the one that you performed in drag?
It was Summer Lovin', because I was
Sing it.
I was a Greaser. Summer Lovin', had me a blast.
Summer lovin' happens so fast.
But that's wrong because I should be playing Danny Zuko and you should be playing Sandy. So wait, what is your favorite Grease song?
The first one, Grease.
Grease Lightning? Wait, you mean in the credits?
Opening credit song
It's a good song.
with Frankie Valli. Are you kidding me?
You know what my favorite song is? Sorry, I totally...
Yeah, she's gonna-
Tell me more about your favorite song.
No, please. Let's skip over me.
No, like,
Back to you.
tell me about your favorite song.
Oh, are we in the Allison corner of the blueprint right now?
It's all the Allison corner.
What's yours?
The small interlude.
This is why you cut me off for a song you can't remember the name of?
I don't think it has a name. Where Rizzo sings about how she's not that kind of, or like there's worse things she could do.
Keep your filthy paws off my silky dress.
I do like that part, but no, it's the part where it's like, there are worse things I could do to go with a boy or two, something like that.
What about hopelessly devoted to you?
I always fast forward that song.
What?
It's boring.
It's emotionally gripping and resonant. What the hell are you talking about?
It's boring.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are you always in John Travolta's mindset when you're watching Grease?
Yeah.
Next. Like you cut me off when I was trying to name my favorite song. Anyway.
Do you have a favorite musical?
Well, I'm excited for an upcoming musical.
Oh, I am too. What's it called again?
Wicked.
Oh, I was thinking of the Joker musical.
What are the settings for the washing machine? What's that musical with the Green Witch? But probably one of my favorite musicals, if I had to choose.
Okay, hit me.
It's more of a jukebox called Moulin Rouge.
Oh,
But
yeah.
the movie version, not the stage version, because the stage version updated it for the 2010s. I'm not about that.
Oh.
I'm more interested in the 1980s, which is what the Nicole Kidman, Ewan McGregor musical does.
I've only seen it 1.5 times.
Probably at our house.
The halftime was at your house, but I'm pretty sure we didn't watch
Our
the
family,
whole
there was a
thing.
period where we watched it every weekend. It's probably where I picked up forcing people to watch like movies or TV that I love, like the OA example, because anytime we'd have people visit, we'd be like, you've got to watch Moulin Rouge. You've got to watch it. Our entire family, we'd all just like sit down and rewatch Moulin Rouge.
I think that's nice. You're trying to, bring people into your world.
Yeah.
And I always appreciated going to your house for movie nights because you had Netflix, the original, the DVDs, and we did not. I loved going to Blockbuster, but I really loved the idea of getting DVDs in the mail.
In the mail.
It seemed so cool.
Maybe we shipped over from Manchester. You never know.
It's true. And I think it's really cool that when they finally discontinued that, the people who were still using that service could buy the DVDs. They had an option to buy them.
Why don't they just give them the DVDs for free?
That's a good question. Because they weren't doing so well. The venture capitalists, they pulled out. Okay, well, if I had to pick a favorite musical, obviously Mamma Mia would be up there. But the movie version, I've never seen the stage version.
I have.
But how does it rank? How does it compare?
I don't really remember it.
But I really love the movies because I feel like they are silly, but emotionally grounded. And it's really fun to sing ABBA songs. So that's why I like them. I saw Fun Home. That was a great...
That's a musical?
Yeah.
Sing a song from it.
My ring of keys, my ring of keys. I know you. I know you.
First I thought it was just a comic. Then I found out it was a stage play. Now I find out it's a musical. I'm excited to learn On the next podcast, what else this musical has for
it's set
store?
on the planet Mars.
Earth?
No,
No.
I'm kidding.
No. Mars?
A Martian planet known as Pennsylvania. Do we think the musical is queer? These are all random questions on my
What
blue.
musical?
The musical as a form.
Oh. Well, yes, it's a gay musical. As opposed to a straight musical, as we learned from theater camp.
That was a great movie. We should watch that for the podcast, actually.
Yeah.
And maybe have better.
It's just the floor creaking.
That was a weird noise.
It just creaks.
Okay, and then I think the last thing I want to share, which I think you will enjoy or appreciate. I came
So
across.
I won't enjoy it.
Enjoy seems
Or
like
it's sad news.
It-
and you don't want me to revel in it.
yeah.
Oh.
It's kind of a thinker, or it's like a thought-provoking thing.
Okay.
But it was a TikTok of an old Harvey Firestein interview. Barbara Walters was asking him about like coming out and how, and something to the effect of like, and even 5 years ago, you couldn't have ever appeared on a show like this and been out. And he kind of gently is like, well, I mean, no, I could have been. Like you could have had me on your show. And kind of, and he's like, and she's like, well, no, the climate. He's like, no, I mean, I work in the theater. Do you know how many like homosexual people work in the theater? And everybody knows it. Everybody knows it. And all it takes is one powerful person, to say, yeah, you can come on my show and be out. But he doesn't do it in a mean way. It's just it's
Factual
really,
and knowledgeable.
and very powerful and
moving
and pointed without being degrading. And I don't know. I guess what I'm trying to say is to connect this back to Connie and Carla, because it seems a little random, is that this movie, Nia Vardalos, hopefully I'm saying her name right. I feel like I'm probably not. Took a gigantic swing with Connie and Carla, and was not received well. And I mean, it seems like her career is doing pretty well, but maybe in the public perception of her career, or people like me who kind of just assume she's my big fat Greek wedding lady who hasn't done much else, it probably did hurt her career in a way. And I just think it's great that she stuck her neck out there anyway and made something that was really fun and deserves to be seen as fun and not looked down upon because it's the girl version of Some Like It Hot.
Yeah.
That has, well, I feel like the drag queen element today would probably be seen as much more fun than it was and exciting than it was in the past.
I mean, drag is like that much more in kind of like pop culture than it was back then even. So it's like,
yeah,
it was very forward thinking for the time.
Was.
And thank you, Nia.
And it was lost on.
Thank you for moving the needle, even if it was just a little bit. And people didn't understand it at the time because we loved it.
We did. And every tiny inch forward of the needle is progress.
And thank you, Toni. We also love you.
Oh, yeah. Toni, we do love you. This just wasn't your episode to shine. There'll be another episode, I'm sure.
Except there's the wonderful clip of Trixie Mattel talking about where they had to pick. Do you remember Will played the clip for us? Of choosing the best actor. They like competed like head to head with each actor, and then Toni Collette.
She won. She kept being chosen.
Which is not surprising.
Not surprising. So is there any remaining thoughts about Connie and Carla that we didn't cover or that you remember from the movie that you wanted to talk about?
I just wish we'd watched it more recently.
I know.
So we could kind of point out some of our favorite scenes. I'm sure there's stuff that we're overlooking. I do think it's like very comical, and the movie is very intentionally campy, but you really do have to suspend your disbelief when like there's all the scenes of the like not only are like Connie and Carla living in an apartment complex with a bunch of other drag queens who all the time bombard their apartment, and they quickly have to find ways to disguise themselves so the jig is not found out. And that's always like all right, at what point are they gonna realize that these are just two women,
just ladies? That you have to suspend your disbelief. But I think that's like true of a lot of gender bending movies like that, where you're supposed to, like in Shakespeare, whenever there's like a girl dressed like a boy.
She's the man, I was gonna say.
Well, yeah, or she's the man. It's like nowadays, because we have a different understanding of gender, I think we would not assume someone's gender.
No, you wouldn't. Yeah.
Which is good, which is great. But I think back then, I don't know. I feel like, the way that people just kind of believe what Amanda Bynes says in that movie.
I've never seen the movie, actually.
What?
So I've been waiting to tell you.
I have
the same shame that you feel with telling your father you haven't seen Some Like It Hot.
I don't know if they're on the same level, but okay. Well, we have to watch that movie because it's great. I could talk about British things because it's based on Shakespeare, and we could talk about, it's another kind of gender bending movie. So I think it qualifies for queer cinema catch-up.
Okay.
Wow, I can't believe you never saw that movie. It's kind of shocks me sometimes with the things that you said you haven't seen. What was the thing you said the other day you haven't seen? Oh, I was just listening to it. What did you say you hadn't seen? Oh, National Treasure.
We were like, Moulin Rouge is right here.
That's true. You had the
Why
Netflix.
do we need to go to the cinemas?
You had the Netflix, and I was suffering.
What are your perceptions of Connie and Carla that we didn't get to talk about?
Yeah, I guess I just really was struck. I know I feel like a broken record, but I just am struck by how it's this weird combination of we can't like this movie in 2004 because it's so gay. We can't like this movie in 2004 because women can't be silly. I do feel like the reception was informed by a cocktail of sexism and homophobia.
What a great word, a cocktail.
Cocktails are
but
usually
then what
fun.
follows is kind of sad.
Yeah.
Homophobia and
sexism. It's a kind of cocktail that when you drink it, you immediately start crying instead of dancing.
Well, I just wouldn't order it in the first place.
Me neither. I say, take that back to the kitchen.
So is that Connie and Carla?
I think so. I mean, I wish I had more things to say about the scenes. Do you feel like it was an accurate representation of WeHo?
No.
No, I don't.
I don't think it was shot in West Hollywood, actually. I think it
Really?
was shot in Vancouver.
Oh, you did say that earlier. It did look a little bit.
There were exterior shots of West Hollywood, yeah. But then you could really feel, I mean, they're on sets.
Yeah.
But, so it doesn't matter where they are. But there's something about, I want, you know me. I want to see more. I want to see the outside world.
But this did feel big in a way that other movies. There were so many supporting characters that got the news involved. There was a Fargo element happening with those murderers coming after them and their kind of goofy boyfriends.
Yeah.
Who had hard to understand accents.
I thought they were just American.
Oh. Maybe I'm just thinking of Fargo, and in my mind I'm making them have accents. Oh, we didn't talk about how it also gave me Barb and Star vibes. Barb and Star
it is very Barb and Star. The whole point of Connie and Carla would be we're not going to be dating. We're not going to do that. It reminds me of Barb and Star where they're both pretending not to be dating.
I actually do wonder if it was kind of a little bit inspired by it.
It probably was.
Because it's tonally very similar.
Yeah, they probably didn't have that many
Midwesternness.
Female starring comedies to pull from, to reference from. So
Barb and Star is the progeny of Connie and Carla. It definitely is. Barb and Star, Connie and Carla.
Yeah.
Throw in Kristen Wiig as an evil, wronged, villainous.
Yeah.
With a crazy haircut.
Mm-hmm.
And
keep going.
And you got the same movie. Set it in Florida. Instead of WeHo. They even have a celebrity, a funny celebrity cameo in that.
Who?
I don't remember who it is, but they keep talking about some woman that they both love, and then in the end, she's the mermaid.
She's not a real person. Oh, no, Reba?
Yeah.
McEntire?
Yeah. Is that who it is? Yeah.
Who's a mermaid? And The Mermaid, the highest grossing romantic comedy ever.
Mind blown. Okay, we forgot to do something very important.
What?
Which is this queer cinema catch-up. We're supposed to catch up with one another. And we haven't done that at all because we're so camera shy and shocked.
Well, we usually do it at the end.
That's true. Is it the end or is it not the end?
That's the end.
So anything new?
I'm about to edit a queer soccer movie, and I just was looking at the dailies.
How do they look?
They look amazing.
That's so cool.
So I'm excited for that. What's going on in your life?
I went to San Francisco for work. I'd never been. And every time I go to a new city in California, I'm like, wait a second. Why is LA the worst one of these places?
Really? You think LA is the worst one?
I didn't really see a lot of San Francisco. I was outside of San Francisco, but it's just so green.
Yeah.
And I really
But when you say LA is the worst one, what do you mean by that? Where else have you been in California? San Diego, San Francisco, and LA.
Yeah. I think I would rank San Diego, and I don't know about San Francisco. It has a lot of problems at the moment, so I'm not sure I would really rank San Francisco.
Well, every city has its problems.
Yeah, but I think it's pretty famously got a lot of problems going on at the moment. Yeah. I mean, I love Hollywood. I love entertainment, but just the nature, the cleanliness. I wasn't in San Francisco proper. I have a feeling maybe it's not the cleanest as well. I don't know. But the green, the trees.
Great.
I went to Lolo, which is a famous Mexican restaurant in the Mission District. And I had a panko crusted shrimp taco.
Oh my God, I'm really hungry right now.
I know, me too. Me too.
Lazy Acres is closed.
I know.
This is Queer Cinema Catchup. I'm Joe.
I'm Allison. Thanks for putting up with us in our very first video podcast.
This is a podcast where we talk about movies, TV, and miscellaneous topics. I do believe you said miscellaneous items at the beginning of the podcast, which I guess sometimes we can focus on an item. But lately we've been doing a lot of movies and I'm happy about it. And I'm here for it. However, some of our most successful content has been out of a TV show called Hacks.
That's so true.
So it's important to be adventurous, try new things.
Keep an open mind.
Watch movies maybe that you wouldn't normally watch, like Connie and Carla, even though it's from a couple decades ago.
2 decades.
That's weird to say.
2 decades.
A couple.
I guess that's true.
A couple decades.
Yeah. Do that. Unpack your internal biases.
Listen
open.
to Chapel Rowan.
Listen to Chapel Rowan.
Watch Nia movies and
Champion
TV shows.
her.
And subscribe to our YouTube channel, please.
Yes, please. We'd love
and
that.
And like and comment. And, email us at queercinemacatchup@gmail.com. We do polls in the community tab. We read all the comments.
Yep.
We will incorporate what you guys want to do. We will try to cut out what you don't like.
We're open-minded and we're here
and
to
we're
listen.
hopelessly devoted to you.